Okay, I guess it's 5:30. We'll call the Delaware County Fish and Game Commission Advisory Commission to order, and we'll have a roll call.
Chairman Rob Miller.
Present.
Vice Chairman Sherman Jackson.
Present.
Commissioner J. Tuck Steinrock. Commissioner Kendall Smith. Commissioner Helen Ferguson. Commissioner Job Silva. Commissioner Steve Avila. Commissioner Sal Hernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas Mitchell.
Here.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Anyone has something to change or adjust, say so. Otherwise, we get a motion to approve the minutes.
I will so motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment time. Anyone from the public can certainly address us now on various matters not on the agenda. Not on the agenda.
Andrea Spahn. I'm a recreational fisher person. I want to talk about the canaries. We are down limited to 2 canaries with our quota of our rockfish that we can catch. And I do understand that some of the management zones do have an overfish problem of canaries, but up here we don't. And what I would like to request you guys to do, if you could, is write a letter to Fish and Wildlife and NOAA requesting that they come up here and do more data surveys, just like we did with the quillback, so that we can prove to them that we don't have a shortage of canaries. There's times I go out on South Reef and will catch 10, and you're sitting there releasing, Sherman's nod. So yeah, if there's anything you guys could do to just write a letter and ask for more data, more surveys up here, I would appreciate it.
Anyone else?
It says matter on or off. Wait.
Hi, it's Alicia Williams. So I was looking at the purpose of this advisory commission for the county. I guess the county created this in the late 90s, and it looks like it's for fish and wildlife conservation purposes. And so I want to know what's being done in the estuary. I do have an overview shot of the estuary and all the cultivation that's occurred. That's taken away all the vegetation that was the habitat for salmonids and other endangered species. So if you guys want to look at that.
Are you speaking toward the Smith River estuary?
Yeah, the Smith River estuary, yes. So what I'm concerned with is what is being done currently and what is planned to be done to restore habitat in critical areas of the estuary along streams and waterways that have had exceedances over and over again with the water quality concerns from all the different pesticides. And I do have that information here too. If you guys need to look at it, you can take copies. And basically there's about 5 or 6 different locales that still have exceedances that are above aquatic thresholds for safety. And so we have to mitigate those harms. And then the other thing, even if the lily growers were to stop using all the pesticides that are harmful to aquatics, that's not enough to mitigate the harms, because copper is used in such huge amounts and it's a metal and that doesn't break down. It binds to the soil. So those soils all along the highway on both sides where lilies have been grown is so contaminated with copper that we must mitigate that harm by putting biochar, because it's dissolved organic carbon, and that will draw the copper to it out of the soil. And you don't have to disturb the soil. You just put biochar on top like a cover, like a mulch. And then also phytoremediation techniques, which uses different plants that will draw out different toxins, and some will draw out different heavy metals. And it's important that we lock down that toxic soil with cover crops, because any loose soil will get taken in the wind and the rain, and it'll end up in the water there because those are wetlands. So I really want to know what's being done to mitigate those harms. I mean, the salmonid population, we don't have dams on the Smith River. There isn't a major fish passage problem on our watershed. It's a chemical problem in the estuary. So I want to know what's being done. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Old-time down order. Yeah, this is a bad deal. In the early 50s and 60s, when the land grabs started in the county, Forest Service ran in a guy by the name of Pickenpaw, run everybody off their claims with a trumped-up deal, and it's got worse ever since. And now there's nothing left but access to the property, so now they're trying to stop that. So, you know, we need to stand up and stop this. I've hunted on Lake Earl, my family, for 135 years. And now, if they give it to the Talawas, nobody can hunt there except a card holder.
Hey,
And it's
Jim?
derived.
Jim, that's actually on the agenda. We haven't got to it yet.
Oh,
Okay, just so you know, because I know you're going to want to get up again.
oh, okay.
Anyone else? Sure.
My name is Carl Page, and I live in Smith River, and I am a Tidewater goby expert. This is a Tidewater goby. They only grow to about 2 inches long, but they're a federally endangered species. And Tolowa Slough is the northernmost, what's that? That it's an endangered species? The federal government? Fish and Wildlife Service? U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Anyway, so I came up here to study those on Lake Earl, and I have been a proponent for the species for over 20 years, so whenever I can, I will talk for their benefit. I would like to introduce some stuff into evidence. One is the top 10 agricultural chemicals by pound applied to the lily fields from 2012 to 2021, and it shows the exorbitant amounts of highly toxic pesticides that are applied. And I'll hand that in. Pardon? The Tidewater goby. The Tidewater goby, my client. It's my client.
Jim,
Anyway,
hold this a second.
Thank
We'll
you.
we'll let Carl finish, please.
okay.
Thank you.
The second thing I'd like to do is to show you, submit some graphs showing the tolerance for salmonids. The third thing is a temperature probe that I put in the lower river several years, 10 years ago now, showing the thermal limits in the estuary. Now, coho need temperatures under 64. That summer, there was only 2 occasions when it was under 64. So it's too warm in the estuary for coho. They need cover, they need cooler water, they need the tributaries of the estuary to oversummer, unlike other fish. The next thing I'm going to show you is studies that have been done showing the increased populations of salmon when this cooler temperatures are accessible, and it's life history diversity as explained in increased estuary rearing opportunities. That's cover and temperature. And the last thing I'd like to show you is the thing that they post and will post on the fields this year, showing how deadly soil fumigants are, and not to go in there for 10 days. But they don't tell the people that they're right behind. I did. This soil fumigants are used to sterilize the soil, to kill nematodes, which bore holes in the bulbs. Unfortunately, 1,3-dichloropropene and metamsodium also kill everything with a capital E, sterilizes the soil. Yeah, we're talking about on the land now, not the water. I'm talking about the sterilization of the soil and the depletion of the biota in this. So anyway, so I'd like to submit these to whoever it is I should submit them to. Thank
Do lower water temperatures, is that bad for the gobies?
They get a highly tolerant to temperature. I've found them incredibly warm
Oh, I
temperature.
thought you just said the cooler waters on.
No,
Smith.
that's for coho salmon. See, coho need temperatures under 64
Yeah,
degrees.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm going back to the goby.
No, tidewater goby are very tolerant of temperature fluctuations. I've found them in really tepid water.
What temperature would be detrimental to the tidewater goby?
That's a good question. I've seen when it's been really warm, then the dissolved oxygen in the water is depleted, and they'll come and they'll air gulp. Certain fish can come up and gulp air if there's not enough air in the water.
But you don't know a water temperature?
Uh,
A ballpark?
Hmm?
Ballpark?
I'm not even going to guess. It's warm, tepid bath water. What it happens at that temperature, though, it kills everything else, all their food source. So then they starve to death. And in the Tiller Slough, the studies have shown that that habitat has been impacted by things like copper, which deplete the phytoplankton, zooplankton food chain. So the fish don't have enough to eat, so they don't reproduce. So when you take habitat, like they do with the pesticides, it's equivalent to taking of the species, which is equivalent to a $10,000 or 6-month jail. And I see no Fish and Wildlife going after them. Working through Ventura and Carlsbad Fish and Wildlife Service, they are on people that are impacting their environment. But up here, nothing.
Okay.
And they should be held to task to do their job.
Set aside the pesticides, insecticides, whatever. Water temperature with various techniques for altering rivers, streams, lakes, whatever. If the water temperature is lower, you're saying that's not detrimental to the tidewater goby?
They can live in pretty cold water. I did a 1-year study on Lake Earl. I was out there all year long.
Yeah, I remember.
So, and the temperature wasn't a problem.
Okay.
It's food source out there.
So I'm just asking you, you're the expert. So what is the water temperature that is detrimental to the tidewater goby?
Nobody has done a study on that. I don't think they would get the permits to be able to make fish die.
Right now it's-
Endangered species, you can't just put them and turn up the heat on them.
Okay, so it's kind of a theory right now of what it might be, or an educated guess?
No, I don't think anyone's done any studies on temperature tolerances of tidewater goby.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna move the discussion about, anybody have any status reports since our last meeting? Seeing none,
The lake is closed.
the lake is closed.
Oh, you didn't know that? Well, that is the status report. And it was last week or the week before. While I was out there, I gathered up a 5-gallon bucket full of nails. I thought Jeff was kidding when he told me he does that. Pallet fires, guys. We need to start slapping some parents because the kids are out there building pallet fires right in the middle of the friggin' road. Easier to pick up, but geez, Manise.
So we're, sure.
So before we move forward with this agenda, I missed last month's meeting. And so I would like to know, how specifically number 8 is part of our purview as Fish and Game Commission. And if so, who put this on the agenda? And can you please explain how it is under our purview as the Fish and Game Commission to have this discussion and be on our agenda, and then we can move forward.
Well, I think one of the reasons that we have a Fish and Game Commission is to look at public participation in fish and game items and public access items to various places. And of course, somewhere down the road, it certainly is a possibility, not a probability, as I mentioned at the Board of Supervisors meeting from the Fish and Game Commission. We're interested in public access. And so if we think there's a possibility somewhere down the road that public access could be affected, that's the reason it's here. Because fishing and hunting and those types of things are part of the purview of this commission. And the public having access to fishing and hunting and so forth, be it in the ocean, be it wherever, that's part of what we do.
Okay. I hear that concern, but also on this specific item, this item is no longer even an issue because this bill is dead. So within this legislative period, this doesn't pertain anymore. So I still don't understand what we're going to be talking about and what pertains to fish and wildlife. Because
Okay,
that's the purpose of this commission.
Yeah, the reason it's still there is because every month, certain agenda items reappear month after month. That agenda item, in theory, that's the reason why I'm moving it forward, didn't have a chance to continue, is no longer effective because the bill has been pulled and it's not an issue at the moment. It's been pulled, it's gone, which is what I was going to announce. So it's been pulled, you're right, it's no longer part of our concern at the moment.
I have a question for you, J-Tuck. Are
Yeah.
you saying that it's not going to come back up again?
I don't know if it will or not.
Well, neither do we.
I don't know. You know what I mean? I sit here as J-Tech Steiner, a citizen of Del Norte County, and I can't tell you if it is or not.
Yeah, you're same as us. Do you know, I already know the answer, but are you aware that the Lake Earl Fish Wildlife Area is also under potential takeover by the tribe?
It's a possibility. Yeah, but that hasn't been further discussed or plans have moved forward there.
And see, Jacob, as being here from the mid-1800s with my family, that is a major concern that 10,000 acres out there would go under tribal domain, or for lack of a better word of putting it that way. And what is the unknown factor is what's going to happen if it goes in trust and it goes to the BIA. So, and those are unknown. And I don't know whether you can answer them here tonight. Maybe you know.
Well, I can't specifically answer, but I know that the process for trust status, what you're talking about through the federal government, is a long process.
Correct.
And it's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. And
Right.
it'll probably be past if that ever does happen and we do get our land back, then it'll probably be past my lifetime.
It
And
may,
definitely
it
the
may,
rest
or
of us in here. But,
go ahead.
you know, and who's to say that that's the route we would go?
I don't know. It's all
If
I
it
know.
was to
It's all I'm asking because of what I've been told. I understand what you're saying, and it's definitely not going to happen probably in my lifetime. About ready to croak. But the thing is that it is out there, and we need to look forward to future generations. That's my concern.
Well, and I believe that's the view of the tribe, and that would be the view of, me for sure, and why I would support that. Is
Okay.
because it is for future generations, it is for future protection of resources and that are out there. It's not
I don't think
it's not
any-
a bad thing.
I don't think anybody doubts what you're saying about protection of resource. What we're talking about is access for everyone. And what has made this kind of look bad is this deal that was just heard at the last Fish and Game Commission meeting, where they started from north of the Smith River to the Oregon border, the Marine Life Protection, we realize is what shut it down. But the fact that the Dene Nation asked for unlimited take with no restrictions on what they're taking and locking everyone else out unless you had a Dene card. Now, that's what you said here at this meeting.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
No, I did not.
Well, correct
No,
me
no, I did
then.
not. I didn't say that it was unlimited take on everything that we want.
I
The
didn't
reason
say you
why-
said that. I said, I was talking
That's what
about
you
the,
just said.
I was talking about the access. You said they have to be a card holder.
In the MPA that the state of California has determined, yes, that is how that MPA stands. The tribe didn't write that. That's the state
I
of
didn't say you
California.
did. I'm just saying that that is the way that it shook out. And in the language, it is unlimited take for the tribe, and it's only to the
No,
card.
it's not.
Well, that's what it
It's not, it's
says.
not unlimited take for the tribe. If you look at the regulations in that MPA, we are bound by state law,
Yeah,
by the Fish and Game Regulations
Right.
law that is passed by the Fish and Game Commission every year. So no, that is not a true statement.
well, that's
It's
not what I
an
was told.
unlimited take. And the reason why the tribe was going after what she's referring to is the fact that we went and there was a species of concern for the tribe.
Correct,
And I
correct.
can speak on this because I was staff.
Right,
And that we were seeing a decline in our surf smelt.
absolutely.
So we went after that and we said, hey, you know what? This is something that we need to look at because we're seeing a decline in it.
Absolutely.
So there was a series of data gathered, there was a marine program that was developed, it expanded the Natural Resources Department, and we just determined that the reason why we need it even more protected, because that was the only thing in the whole state, in that MPA, that was allowed to be taken by everybody. And so,
Right.
at the time, we decided to make it, well, hey, if you've already not allowing any of this take in this MPA, then why not protect the smelt more? And let them rejuvenate and come back.
I don't deny anything that you
So
just
that's
said.
all that's what that was. So I
But then-
don't know if that answered your question or
Well, not really, because
what do you want to hear, Helen? What do you want to know? What do you want me to say?
what I want you to say is what the truth is. And,
That is the
and
truth.
way I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just
That
saying,
is the truth.
okay, but the point is that only the Talawadini card holders can go there. Is that correct? That's
We
what
have
you,
an exemption. Yes, we do.
okay, that's what I'm talking about. And also, what I was told when I looked into it, and don't ask me the names because I'm terrible at remembering names, is that it was unlimited amount of take, no cap on how many. So you have a limit on it?
Did you hear what I said?
No, I
We are
obviously
bound
missed it.
by the state. We are bound by the state regulations for take in that MPA.
And what are,
We have to have a California fishing license and are bound by the take, even though we're allowed to be exempt. If you look at the regulation, it states in there that you have to abide by California law.
so another,
Is there a quantity that you're restricted to, or is it unrestricted take that you're allowed to take? That's what I think Helen's getting at.
that's why I'm asking.
Is there a limit on how much you can take, or is it unlimited on how much you can take by the state of California?
It's just by whatever the regulations say.
But what does the regulation say? Does the regulation have a take quantity, poundage, these numbers, whatever,
Yeah.
in the regulation?
Yeah.
And you know what that take number is?
I can't remember them right off the top of my head.
Okay, that's I think what she's getting after is that how much can you take?
Yeah, see, it wasn't explained that way to me by the people that I talked to. And in fact, we wrote a letter from our local Grange, and we talked about the unlimited take. Because I asked the question, are they restricted, meaning the Talawadini people, for how much they could take? And the answer was no, and it's open-ended because of when it may come back. If the population replenishes itself, is it going to be revisited and opened up to everyone else?
Possibly.
Well, that's the problem. It was open-ended. I see what you're saying. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just telling you the facts of what we were told. I was
Because,
told.
you know, part of the overall, series of that data collection is that there's a decline in those fish all the way on the north coast.
Absolutely.
So it's not just that one specific specific beach.
Right. And the
It's
next,
Kellogg
and the
also.
next thing will be
You know,
Kellogg.
we don't have the fishermen out there that are fishing them like we had in the past. And, you only are out there and you only see them when they're running.
That's right.
So.
So if if Kellogg Dune State Park would go, if Kellogg Dune State Park would go into the potentially where this bill is going to lead, well then, like you just said, the population is down. We know that everywhere. Will then that too be restricted just to the Dene Nation? Is that the intent?
Not right now, no.
Okay.
No, it's not. And that's the misnomer. I mean, again, I don't understand I understand your public access, but this specific bill that is now dead and gone off the books does not restrict public access.
I myself am not under that impression. I just know that it's going to come back
But I
up
think
again.
that's why we have a number of people here going to stand up and talk because they're worried about not being able to access land.
Yeah, absolutely,
Well,
100%. I was
Jay,
hoping.
But
one
what
thing-
I'm saying is it wasn't going to be that.
The one thing that's really important is to get a copy of that bill that was published from the beginning.
You can get that. You
I
can
know,
get
I
that.
got it.
We have it. That's the problem.
From the beginning, and then there were some modifications to that bill before it was killed, okay? The first draft that came out did in fact specify no access. Just a second now. It did in fact specify no hunting and fishing on the lake, no hunting and fishing. That's what it specified, unless you were a TDN member. And some of that got changed, okay? I know that when it becomes trust, somewhere down the road, 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years, doesn't make it, however long it might take, because obviously that would probably be the net result. The BIA doesn't pay any attention to any of those types of things. That's something that's passed and handled by the council, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the question that this group has about maintaining on public property that gets transferred out of the public domain into the hands of the Tolo Dini Nation, and then further gets transferred into the hands of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, whether public access that's been there when it was a public park purchased by public dollars gets fixed. That's the question that came out here, totally and completely. I mean, I testified at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I'm not concerned. I don't think we're concerned about the transfer of the ownership of the property. What we're concerned is the potential limited access for the public to recreate in that area. And that's something that's either going to be managed by Bureau of Indian Affairs, not well if it is, or it's going to be managed by the council if it becomes council property. And so that's what this group was
Well, it's
worried
not
about.
council property, it's tribal property.
I understand. I said that incorrectly, and I apologize. The council is going to manage and control, and hey, they're going to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Whether people can enter and exit that property if it becomes there and if it goes to trust.
But that's a big what if.
That's
a big what if.
But that's what we're here for. What if we're worried about the public access? That's all. Not worried about the transfer of the property to the Tolo Dini
And
Nation, not worried about any of that.
Unfortunately, what we're doing here is we're convoluting two different ideas. Because if you look at the land that was actually going to go back was already state park. And there's no hunting on state park land.
True.
It was just gonna be continued on what that was.
See, that's,
And that
Okay,
is not,
Jay Tucker,
that is
I
not,
wanna-
nothing was gonna change. other
I want to,
than the ownership
things have
of the
already
land.
changed. This is the
What?
problem. The things have already changed, and this is before your time. In the 1970s, when they purchased Tallowood Dune State Park areas, it was classified as a California state project, period. Okay, in that California state project, you could hunt and you could fish, and the slough, for example, north of Kellogg, that was done through memorandums of understanding with Fish and Game, because they got together and said, oh, Fish and Game, you need to manage the wetlands and the hunting. All right, so then in 2001, they had a meeting in Eureka. Our Board of Supervisors knew nothing about it. I know for a fact because I was working with some attorneys at Pacific Shores at the time, and they had a meeting in Eureka, never notified our county, and there were 3 representatives from Del Norte County that attended that meeting, and I have the minutes from those. And it was Sue Calla, who was kind of the Aleutian Goose guru, Sandra Jerebeck, who we're all familiar with on the dunes restoration, and Lauren Baumlin. Those were the only 3 people from Del Norte that went there, and that's the day they instituted the Tallowood Dunes State Park. And it came out in the paper the next day. So then the parks, people were out in an uproar, just kind of like where we're heading now, as far as, oh, we're going to lose our hunting and fishing, which they did lose. They never, ever did renew those memorandums of understanding. Now, this is before your time, and I don't expect you to know that. That's why I'm telling you that. So things have trickled down that way. Then the park knew that people were going to be really upset. So the park came to the Board of Supervisors, and they said everything's going to be status quo. Only to have 5 years later, to have Marilyn Murphy come here before the Board of Supervisors and say, okay, you can't ride your quads on the Worm Trail. We had the Blue Ribbon Coalition here, finally got access for the commercial fishermen to go on the beach, or someone could drive down. And we said, well, wait a minute. The park's been in effect for 5 years, and now you're just coming in here, oh, well, it was called an educational phase-in. And I said, well, I've been an educator my whole life, and I've never heard of breaking the law. If it was a park, why did you let Del Norte County break the law for 5 years? They just didn't want to have the upheaval because they had not notified the county, and the only 3 people were the 3 people that I told you that went when they instituted the park. So yeah, that's why I myself might be a little overly sensitive in your mind, but all of our accesses and our hunting and recreational activities, yeah, they're going away. And while we're on the subject here, when my great-great-grandchildren are here, one of the setbacks that the BIA asked for those of us that will have adjacent land next to the parks.
What?
I just asked you. The BIA asks for setbacks for private property that's adjacent. What are those?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, that's part of the problem.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Do any of you folks in the audience know?
are you talking about the process that if the lands do go back to trust with the BIA, you're talking about what that process is, right?
And after the process is over and it becomes under the authority of the BIA.
So, okay. I think the main question here for our group is that the county and our group right here, we're trying to be responsible for the 27,000 people in the county to make sure that they will always have access that they have today for fishing, right? Or for trail hiking or for horse riding in the park. So the problem that I think is that when lands go into trust, they're no longer abiding by the California state law or federal law. They're abiding by Indian law under the BIA.
No, I think you guys are mistaken. The BIA, it's the federal government that owns the land. It's the United States government. It's in trust. It's not the BIA. They're just the agency that oversees us.
Exactly.
Right.
As tribes of this nation. You know, if you guys know, your education used to be the Bureau of War.
So, hold on.
That got
Yeah.
turned into the Bureau of Indian Interior. So I think you're confused.
I think that.
Well, I don't think I'm
can you-
confused,
can you
Jacob.
Tell me what law does the lands in trust fall under when it's under in trust?
In law?
What law? Is it under US law
Huh?
or is it under Indian law? When lands go into trust under the BIA, they fall under Indian law and no longer fall under.
They're federal law.
No.
It's all federal law. Yes, it
No, it is
is.
not. It's not.
It's federal law.
No, it's Indian law on reservation lands. That's why you have reservation police instead of having federal police on the reservation.
So one of the ways to solve the problem, I think, is, it might be, there is in fact trust land in Delaware County, unquestionably. There is trust land in Delaware County, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that Tuolumne Nation manages, and there's trust land in Delaware County that the BIA manages, right? And the Tuolumne Nation has, or the Yurok or whatever, have no control over it, right? Is that true? Yes, go ahead, Monica. Sorry, that way they record you.
I'm Monica Heiner with the Tuolumne Nation. I've had to research this a lot because I'm the environmental division manager and we, have to do property cleanups and that. There are individually owned lands of tribal citizens that are in trust with the BIA. The tribe has no jurisdiction over those. There are also tribally owned lands that are under jurisdiction of the BIA. There are no setbacks for those. It's just whatever lot is in the deed, there's no extra room that the BIA says we need some buffer. So I don't understand what that comment is about, the buffer or the extra property.
But I think the issue is the management of the land.
Public Law 280.
I know a little something about what goes on in South Bank. And the BIA has the federal government has ownership of that land, right? And the BIA, there are problems with cleanup on that land. Tuolumne Nation can't go in there and clean it up.
That's not true.
That's not true.
We're working on that right now with the BIA.
Without getting permission from the BIA, right?
No.
No, that's not right.
We can go in, any one of those allottee members of that can use any of their federal funds or their tribal funds to clean that place up. If it's Elk Valley, if
Okay, just a
it's
second. So
Smith,
you're
if it's
saying that
Tuolumne Nation,
Whose funds are going to be used to clean it up?
whoever has it.
Right now, we're getting funds from the BIA.
If you have a problem on that property right there, if there is a problem on that property right there, who's going to clean it up?
As far as dumping,
Sure, if they've dumped a bunch of garbage on that land and so forth, or there's a bunch of whatever, who's going to clean it up?
well, if it's in the
Who's gonna
waterway,
pay to clean
if
it
it's
up?
in the waterway, that's Fish and Wildlife
No, it's
Department.
up on the land, on the allotments. Who's going to clean it up?
Well, it should be it should be the people living there.
Okay, but.
Should be
No,
the people
but-
living there,
but-
just like
but-
any other land, Rob. I don't know what you're
Jake,
getting at.
Oh, no, here's what I'm getting at. Let's move on. The BIA doesn't do, and the people who are there don't do a very good job in maintaining that property. And once in a while, there is a cleanup out there. Okay? And I know that because my wife has allocated property there. But if you take that property and move it over someplace else, as an example, I mean, what this body's worried about is public access. We're not worried about any of that kind of stuff, and I'm not worried about setbacks or whatever. I'm just worried about public access. I'm worried about the folks in Delaware County being able to fish on that property, being able to go to the beach at that property, being able to net, do whatever they want to do, perch fish, whatever, commercial fishermen, whatever, on the beachfront, all along the state park, quote unquote. And as long as that's maintained, I got no issues with it. As I said before the Board of Supervisors, this group's they got no issues whatsoever with the transfer of that property. Now, hey, that may not be what some people think, but that's true. And so when and if down the road, the county or whoever is promised that that will be maintained a day, a week, or 28 years from now, and something happens, that's the problem. And when it goes into trust, The BIA doesn't pay any attention to previous stuff. It becomes the management of the council, right? And the council can decide to do anything they want to, right? Because they have the management and ownership of the land,
So
just
here's
like
what-
anybody else.
Here's the bite.
That's the issue.
Look
That's
at
the
what's going
issue.
on at Chippewa right now. They're clearing out Chippewa, right?
We're cleaning it up.
Exactly. Did you pull a permit with the county?
We're cleaning that up. We've done,
Have any
we've
permits
done
been
all
pulled?
sorts
Have any
of
been
permits.
pulled?
Yes.
So, no. Not a
Yeah,
single
yeah,
permit
through,
was pulled
through
due
who,
to you.
the, what is it, CDC? Huh? The HCD.
With the county.
It's through the, and the state.
So if there's those lands that are there currently, right? Chippewa was in tax of county, and there's no
Still
permits
is.
pulled for anything that's going on there right now.
To repair the infrastructure that's been defunct in there.
You gotta get a
Still need
permit.
So I'm just saying
We
that,
gotta-
that
Coastal
what
Commission's
happens
gotta
on,
approve
what
it.
happens on those lands?
Coastal Commission, did Coastal Commission approve the improvements?
No.
I'm sorry? Yeah. Which is,
I just want to make a suggestion, if I might. So I think that what they're saying with HCD might have to do with above the county housing and development, maybe. I heard this
that's
come
why I
up.
would like for him to come to explain it.
Well, what I would suggest, because I'm getting the gist from what I'm hearing from the county board supervisors and from like what Thomas just said. So if the tribe would just let them know when you get a permit that isn't through the county, if you would send a letter to notify the county and they're on the same page, that you're keeping them in the loop, all this will go away because they'll already have a heads up. Because they're basically upset that they're not being notified and kept in the loop. That's the county's position that I'm hearing.
Yeah,
It's
that
all
is just an
public record,
example.
though.
It's all just an example of how the county is not involved in what's going on. And if we're left in the dark, we don't have any say over any of it. Right? So when these lands, if SB 2356 would have proceeded, it would have proceeded going to the federal agency that's going to manage that land in trust for the Indian nations, right? And that land, it's no longer the agreements that were with the state of California because it goes under federal law, and the Fed's not going to even recognize those California agreements if something comes up. And so there's a problem with the access, and you go back to the Californians, here's a California agreement. The federal law will go, no, we don't recognize those agreements with the state. And so you can block access because it's now reservation land. You can block access to the reservation. And it's happened time after time. I mean, tell me where one non-native can just walk onto a reservation.
Everywhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah, come on, Rob, are you gonna allow this to happen? Come on, as the chair of this commission,
Anybody can go on any reason, you can go to the Hoopah Reservation anytime you
yeah.
want. You can drive anywhere you want. But until you run into a block gate, no trespassing. That doesn't mean that the whole place is out, but there are block gates, hey, there are block gates for us, right?
So these are local passes, right? If I go to the Navajo reservation, I can't just go driving out into the Navajo reservation.
I've been there, don't know.
You know, there's other reservations besides the ones that are local that do not allow any access by non-natives.
Yeah, I think we're getting off track bad.
Yeah.
The issue is real simple. This commission is concerned about public access, not concerned about ownership of the land, okay?
And then
This commission is concerned about public access and what can proceed down the line for limitation of public access and recreation abilities on state park land. That's what this commission is concerned about. That's all.
Okay.
That's it. And so you get off into other sidetracks and so forth. That's not really part of the right of what we're here for. We're here for and concerned about public access and recreation in Delaware County. That's what we're here for. I mean, We spent a whole bunch of time, as an example, with Fish and Wildlife, trying to get them to fix the potholes at the Saxton boat ramp. And they don't have any money to fix the potholes. And so if you drove your boat trailer into the Saxton's boat ramp and so forth, you could lose the axle. And they refused, oh yeah, we're gonna do it, it never happened. So what did the county have to do, $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000? They went out there and put some patch in the potholes so you can actually enter and exit the Saxton boat ramp, which is a public access location. So that's the type of situation where, that's a state-owned property that they won't even do their job. I contacted quite a number of people throughout to try to get the potholes cleaned up. I don't care whether they even drop some rock in them during fishing season, and that never happened. So the county finally went out there and stuck a little patch in the potholes. So those are the kinds of things that we're concerned about here.
I hear you.
And it's
And I hear you, but I also, I hear what you're saying, and again, that wasn't something that was gonna be taken away. You guys are talking about a hypothetical, something that may happen in the future. But also, you just gave exact examples of the state not being able to manage what they have.
Certainly.
So with the nation being able to step in, I'll just state this, we could help alleviate those bad situations within state lands. That's another situation is the park and Saxon's boat ramp. We could come together, have, some funds from somewhere and help improve it. That's what I want people to see. And if we can continue on with this agenda, that would be great. If we're gonna sit here and then talk about the bad negative on the tribe, then I guess that's what we can do. But can we go down to the end of this?
Jaytuck, I want to say,
This here and continue on with this meeting
But
that
I
we're
don't
supposed to
think
be
that-
attending
Jacob?
and doing. And I am also sitting here as a citizen of the county, not a representative of the Tallawahdaney Nation. I just happen to be Tallawahdaney.
Yeah, and remember, that's totally, the reason that's there, it was a concern. We know it got pulled. We know it got pulled.
yeah.
We were moving that to the top to say that it's been eliminated. It's not a worry at this point.
But it is a worry. You just stated it
Just a
was.
second now.
Well, it's a worry that it's going to come back up
It might
again.
be
That's a
worry down the
no-brainer.
road, and right now, it's not a worry. Right now, it's gone. That doesn't mean in a day, a week, or 28 years, it could come back. Not saying that. Right now, it's gone. It's no longer a worry. Not worried about
Right.
it. Okay? I'm not worried about it. Somewhere down the road, if it comes back, the important thing is the communication as to what the bottom line is, what the object is of what's happening.
So
And that's a day, a week, or 28 years down the
I got a question I
road.
wanted to go on the record. So what I hear from this group and this commission is that in Del Norte County, you do not want to see any lands go back to a tribe and go back into the hands of the federal government,
No.
BIA,
No.
No, you're putting words out there. Nobody said that. Nobody said that.
It's not?
What was
Nobody
said
said
here,
that.
and I'll say it again. Now, it's about the third or fourth time, and so this is the last time I'm going to say it. At the Board of Supervisors meeting, and you can read the letter that was sent by this commission to the Park Commission down in Sacramento. We don't care. We didn't care who owns the property. We don't care whether it gets given to Tallawahdaney Nation. We don't care. We care about trying to maintain public access. Okay? And if in fact the transfer of the property from the ownership of the state to the Tallawahdaney Nation was going to limit public access at some point, that's what we cared about. That's all. I have no problem with land going to trust. I have a problem with land going to trust potentially that's fee property, that's being taxes paid on it, that's supporting the county and the services that are done in the county, but this is state park property. They don't pay diddly squat to Del Norte County. It's not a problem for it to transfer hands, in my view. There's a lot of people that say that I'm wrong when I say that. But I'm saying it, and I said it in front of this group. I said it in front of the Board of Supervisors that day. I don't have a problem with it. It's fine. limiting public access is a problem. That's all. That's all. I think that's square. Sure, go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you. Dalaha, my name is Rachel McCain. I'm the Natural Resource Department Director for the Tallahwaddini Nation. I just would like to read some language into the record that I hope will answer some of the questions from you all today and in the future that can be looked on, if this comes up again. The Tallahwaddini Nation has agreed to conditions on its use of the land that will include public access. Those conditions will be included in the deed as restrictive covenants. So that was to go back to the question about who sets the law governing the land regardless of owner. It's in the deed, and all of you that own land should know that. The eventual legal status of the land as federal trust land does not affect the obligations of the nation as landowner or trustee. Transferring title to the United States does not invalidate restrictive covenants in the deed. The United States would take trust title subject those restrictions. And I wanted to just bring up one more thing about access and some of the question about how the land was purchased in the 70s and then how the park was carved out. Legislative authorization to transfer the park to the nation is not an amendment or repeal of a voter-approved bond measure, and that speaking to the bond funds that were likely used to purchase the property. The transfer will not change the legal protections for open space, wildlife, environment, historical resource, and recreation that the current parkland status provides. Moreover, little is known about the process undertaken between the state's acquisition of this land in the 1970s and its designation as Tallahwaddini State Park in 2001. The conditions set out in the Bond Act under which the land was acquired are not known. The legislature has many times transferred park and beach lands that were acquired with bond funds without legal objections being raised. So I would just like you to consider that again now and in the future if this comes up again. The no version of the bill that was ever published or edited ever included any kind of restriction on public access. It is not the intent of the nation to restrict public access. It is the intent of the nation to manage resources for the betterment of all. And you should you should think about that. That's all I'm going to say.
I got a question for you real quick before you head out. I read that before, and the question and the concern that I have is, we say that you guys are going to allow public access. That's not going to change. But what does that really look like? Because that's pretty broad. I mean, you could say we can give you access for 2-3 days and then close it off the rest of the time. Mm-hmm. And then that to you guys or to whoever owns the land, that could be perceived as public access. Now, I don't know what happened over this past weekend. I kind of read some stuff. You guys ended up reserving some land out there for some event over the weekend, and that restricted public access for the whole weekend.
Correct.
So
no, just for 2 days.
Well, 2 days, Saturday, Sunday. That's the weekend. So then that didn't allow anybody access to go on the land while you guys had a permit pulled around through the parks to do your event over the weekend. So looking forward to that, what you just read is our concern is that when it does become your guys' property or changed hands or whatever, you guys can set forth any rules that you guys would like regarding the public access. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, you are. There are versions of the bill, and there have been communications directly with the county and the author's office of the legislation that clearly outline what the definition of public access is in this context. And it's everything, it's basically preserving everything that's allowed as it is in a park. The only difference is that the nation is the landowner.
Yeah, but you guys will be able to close the parks whenever you guys want, right? Because I mean, you guys did, that was a good example over the weekend. That's what you guys did, right?
So
you guys closed it.
I'll clarify that. Currently, the state park system also has the authority to close a park at any time for any reason that it deems appropriate. I think we're all familiar with what's happened off Hamilton Road, right? Okay. So what occurred this weekend, which was the salmon ceremony, which was a sacred sacred ceremony that the tribe has a right to practice there, as it has always done. We requested a closure order from the superintendent for that area for public safety reasons, basically so that we're not trying to manage non-ceremony participants while the ceremony is happening. Again, that's a sovereign right of the nation to practice that. But additionally to that, anybody who has a valid reason can request a closure order for any area of any state park. Weddings are a good example in our area that are used. Stout Grove has been closed for weddings. Howland Hill Road has been closed. Newton Drury Parkway has been closed. So, those of you that are out and recreating on the land and connected with the land know that areas can be closed for a myriad of valid reasons. And this is another valid reason.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
I just have one thing to say here on this. Part of this is as a group, we're trying to be proactive. We've been blindsided more than once in this county. You know about that. We all know about this. So, I mean, if this keeps appearing on the agenda, then so be it, because the bill may change quite a bit, but it's not dead. Anybody who thinks it's dead, this year. But as we know, things never really die.
Yes.
Sonny Bramley here. I got a question. Who owns the property at Pyramid Point? It's listed as the United States of America. Is that controlled by the Tolowa Nation? Well, it's this property right here.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's being posted and restricted to fishing access, and people have been run off of it. I don't understand. I don't believe this situation. That flag stands for the United States of America, one nation under God. And it's the rights of the people to have their rights and liberties maintained. And that's what I'm talking about. We're already losing our rights to go access on nation property. And do you think I'm going to believe that we're going to have that maintained right? I have a problem believing that because of what's happening already. This is public land. Public, everybody. We are the public. We're letting politicians incite violence in this United States of America. And we should all be part of this community, should be standing on our own principles and working together, all of us. The Tualalas, the Fish and Game, the Board of Supervisors, and the public. We should all look out for each other's back, and we should keep it that way. That's all I have to say. And I'd appreciate if you guys would vote and send another letter to that effect to the state and our supervisors that don't maintain the rights of the people any longer. I feel like we're getting lost in the shuffle for their political gains.
That's exactly what I was.
Anyone else? Yes. Jeff.
Thank you. Good evening. Nice to see a crowd here for a change. I'm a somewhat regular attendee at this thing and was a member of this group 20-some years ago. I wanted to back up to a point, several points that were made earlier. The most important one in my mind is the role of this commission. This commission is here to advise and refer to the County Board of Supervisors information that it collects from the community. As a member of the community, I can tell you, this is one of the most important meetings that's least attended in this entire county regarding fish and wildlife, public access, public recreation, and so on and so forth. And I commend all the commissioners with the diversity of opinions about things that were able to come in here and actually talk to real people. I'll skip over the Board of Supervisors. They're just in another category where you get a time limit on what you can say and so on and so forth. We've had some really nice input discussion here today, some disagreement, maybe a lot of disagreement, whatever. That's what this commission and this building and this meeting are for. We don't have to agree on everything, but we ought to be able to talk civilly, and that's mostly happened tonight. And those of us that have lived here very long have seen all the back dealings that take place in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., various other government and tribal places of business where the real business quite often gets accomplished there, but the opinion of the public is often overlooked. The county has its own, I don't even know what I don't know what they call it now. They have environmental committee and 2 supervisors and maybe 2 people from the public. This group is much more dynamic, and if more folks would show up more often, I think there'd be good information the commission could share with the supervisors. And it may not be pertinent today. There's things on that agenda. I've been coming here for 6 years now. They're on there because of me. We don't talk about them every month, but they're going to close parts of Lake Earl to hunting this fall, just like they've done every year for the last 5 years, and it stays on that agenda item because it needs to not be forgotten, and there's a lot of things like that. So I just wanted to thank the commission, and again, reiterate the good work y'all do to pass the information from the public onto the supervisors who may or may not agree with it. I don't know that there is a similar venue to interface the public with the tribe. Maybe there is. And maybe it would be a good thing if there was, because I'm in full agreement with the main concern here is public recreation and public access. Just as it is with the state park doing a piss poor job of running the state park out there, and I won't even get into the Fish and Game folks managing Lake Earl. That's another whole subject we could spend weeks on. Anyway, thank you all.
I just have a question that I'm curious about regarding the public access. Did the original bill, AB 2356, state that there was going to be no public access?
No. No, it did not state that. What it stated was the fact that when it changed hands, tribal council could do what they wanted to do there, since they had control over it. Just like anyone else who owns who owns personal property, you can put no trespassing on your property. And that bill stated that the tribe, the council, could pass a resolution, whatever, that could, at some point, limit access. It was not specifically written and stated in the bill exactly, but it said that once it changed hands and became, especially when it becomes under the jurisdiction of the BIA.
Okay, so that was the original one. Did you guys revise it to where public access would be available to the public? Or is it still stands with that you could do whatever you wanted with it once you had access to the land? Okay, and you have those deed restrictions. It says that you can still, you have to allow public access?
Right now.
Do you have a copy of that?
She just.
Not anymore?
So I think the way to solve the problem, Rachel just read specifics and exactly what they have proposed or stated, or whatever the right term is, to be put into the deed when and or if it changed hands. Okay? I think that would be important, Rachel, if you could supply that to Jackie, that text that you read. Yeah, that way we have the text that says specifically that TDN, if it
Right.
changes hands and they're given the property, that we have text that says that all of the current stuff will be maintained. And hey,
Perfect.
Again, the state can limit access as they did this weekend. In the state park, they could limit access for some period of time. That's not a question exactly, for sure. But I think that would be really good, would solve a lot of questions. Sorry, deaf people can't hear you.
You can come up.
I would just encourage the folks that are interested in the edits and the timeline, and I'm sure you know this, but there's a tracker where you can view a bill.
Right.
And
Sure.
it's just like rating track changes
right,
on a Word document. And so you can look at it all. None of this is, I mean, we're going through the state assembly, or we were. That's a highly visible public process.
If you knew about it, and we can't follow everything.
Here's
Well, I think you can. I think that part of your responsibility as being a county representative is following everything that affects the people of Donner County. We do that for the people of the nation. So I think that's a
Rachel, just a
perfectly,
second. Just so you're aware, and I think hopefully you are. In December, the county thought this bill had been pulled.
Correct.
Okay? The county thought the bill had been pulled. Their job is to watch this too, obviously, right?
Yep.
Now, they're just as weak on that as anybody else, any public person. It came to their attention, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 days before it was to go to the committee again. It came as a very big surprise to them.
I don't know what he's
do you want to
It's
say?
true.
that?
That's true. It's true.
How-
It came as a very big surprise to them that somehow it got resurrected. Okay, now, hey, I'm just telling you what I've been
Did
told
you
by.
want to say how it got resurrected, or what you're implying about what the changes were?
Oh, I'm not talking about changes from December and so forth. I mean, during the course of the
What- I
week,
don't-
during the course of the week or 10 days that this went along, or 2 weeks or whatever the time frame was, it came back up. December, the county thought it was gone. It came back up 2 weeks or thereabouts before the bill got pulled, that it was back and going to be heard in committee. Okay, that's true. Now, the county doesn't watch it, and it's county's job to watch all that stuff.
It
They
is.
don't watch it either, do they?
I think that's a matter of opinion. I also have a different understanding of the timeline, and I don't know if this is the place to hash that out.
No, it probably isn't.
But
Probably isn't.
there's,
All we know is it's been pulled, and that's all we care about at
yes,
the moment.
and that public access was always going to be preserved. And we appreciate you talking to the board on, in support and being reasonable. And, you are representing a body that advocates for public access and recreation and hunting rights for the community.
Sure.
I participate in all those things and I value them very highly. So I appreciate that you're able to separate kind of the issue here, which is the County Fish and Game Advisory Commission advocating for public access for the people of Donner County on whatever public land is in question. And in this case, we are essentially talking about transfer of ownership, but maintaining public land designations.
Yes,
Okay,
and that's what we cared about.
good.
Totally.
All right.
Right.
I would just like to say that I take your comment seriously. I'll have to pay closer attention, but I didn't realize I would have to look at an assembly person in the southern part of the state. That's how it kind of slipped past me, because I do try and keep up with that. And so that was a little, I don't want to say backdoorish, but kind of.
Well, there are ways within technology to set up alerts that tell you anything that's going on in Donner County.
Actually, this county is a coordination county, and we are supposed to be notified of any of this, and our board never was, our board of supervisors, because did you not go in and check on that, Rob? That's my point.
Let's solve that problem. If in fact there's some decision made by Talawodini Nation to try to resurrect this bill and bring it back, I would ask that we could be notified of that. Is that possible? Simple. Troy says yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
That way it doesn't become a surprise. Because this kind of became a surprise when it may not, should have been a surprise. Maybe everybody should be looking at every bill that goes through Sacramento, but most of us don't have time to do that. This one affects Delaware County specifically. So if you'll let us know that you're going to work on trying to resurrect the bill, perfect. Then we can follow it, and we can see, and we can kind of watch, and maybe there isn't any misconception about what's going on. Simple.
Well, I will say that land back has been a priority for the Talawodini
Absolutely.
Nation since
Absolutely.
their massacre and forced removal in,
Absolutely.
circa
Understand.
1850. So I'm just, that
Understand.
should come as a surprise
And
to
I
no
just
one.
like to add, that's gonna be probably the tone for every tribe in this nation. And I just, I'd also like to see, since we're talking about public access and the limitations on that, at some point when we go down this line in the future, I'd really like to look at the public access that is kept from us from private property owners. If we want to talk about this and we want to be all inclusive and whole, then let's talk about the private property that we don't have access to.
Yeah,
as
let's talk
public
about the
people.
private property for just a minute, because a lot of the lands that's out there was issued under the original land patents in 1850. They were issued from the federal government, if you look that up. That's one of the questions we have out there, is a lot of those lands that's in Talawah Dunes Park came through around 1850, and they were original land patents owned by the federal government. Then in about 1865, they start issuing land patents under the swamp and overflow. So that's a good point you're making. Those lands were not Indian lands. They were owned by the federal government. Well, you can look it up. I'm telling you
Well,
what.
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But that was Indian land. No matter what the federal government said.
Well,
that was Indian land.
It's been tested in court, and
It was
I mean, you're
Indian land,
entitled.
Helen.
You're entitled to
It
your
was
opinion.
Indian, yeah, exactly as you are. But it was Indian
Yeah.
land to start out. Can we?
Well,
So
they-
here's the
Not
answer.
argue about
Just say,
that.
Here's the answer. Here's the answer to your question about public property, J. Tuck. Public property, like the state park, who has had public
Well, we're
access.
talking about public
I know, hang on a second,
Access,
I'm gonna get to that point, because you just mentioned private property being locked off for public access. Okay, I'm getting there. Public property, like the state park, which has had public access, is what we're talking about here.
I know,
Public,
but I'm just saying in
hang
the
on, hang
future,
on,
let's
I-
have
hang
that
on, I'm not
conversation.
talking about, I'm not talking about,
Let's have
I mean,
that
I own some property, right? I got my property posted, no trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
No trespassing. Can't go there, because I own it, I've restricted access.
Right.
And so I can restrict access on public property, on private property that's never had public access, right?
Well, it did at one point.
What year? I know,
I'm
I
just
know where you're
saying,
going.
At one point it did.
I
It's
know
just
where
like
you're
all
going.
the other land that was there on the Green Diamond land. We want to talk about restriction of hunting and fishing. Let's look at that. Green Diamond is a major landowner in this county that none of us can access and don't have access to it. So, I wanted to look at it as a whole. You know what I mean? Not just tribal side, not just, state park side, not just Forest Service side. Let's
Here's,
look at it all.
here's the difference. Here's the difference in my view. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Green Diamond land, they own it, they've owned it for X period of time. They bought some of the land in Donner County from Simonson. Simonson got it from wherever. It's had restricted public access or restricted hunting the entire time they've owned the property. They get tags. You can buy tags, they give tags, they whatever, to do whatever they want to have on that property. That's private property that's never been public unless, that's why I asked what year, unless you go back before 1850, 1840, 1830, whenever a white man came into the area. Then it was everybody's land. Indian land, everybody's land. So they restricted, that's private property. Different than state public property that's been state public property with public access for however long that park has been there. That's two different subjects.
I know, but let's look
Okay.
at those in the future. Those are perfectly different subjects, okay, but let's look at it in the future.
We can go to Green Diamond and tell them to open their land up. You know what they're gonna tell us, right? Take a flying leap.
You are exactly what you would say. Yeah, and Helen would say, and everybody
Yeah.
else that has their
And
own
that's what-
rights. But I'm just saying, let's look at it as a whole. Let's look at it so that we can bring back public land so that we can all access the resources that we're all given here. Right?
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Hi, John.
Hi, just seeking a clarification. John Roberts, I'm representing myself and not any organization that I'm attached to. There was a grave misunderstanding about what happened this weekend, and I just kind of got a clarification here. It was the Park Service that shut the park down for access. Okay, the word out in the street is that thugs were guarding the access points, and I think that needs to be clarified with a lot of people in the community, that a request was made, paperwork submitted, and the park shut it down for 2 days.
Yeah, the park shut it down because Talodini Nation wanted to have a private system, a private get-together.
Yeah, I
It's a
understand.
ceremony. It was a ceremony.
I understand that, but like I said,
Hang on.
the word in the community is that you had thugs that were blocking the deal, and now
No.
that I was
No.
here.
No,
That's what I heard.
Yeah, well, you heard wrong.
Oh, I
That's not
know,
true.
and that's
not
why
true.
I got this
That's not true.
clarification today.
The Talodini Nation requested to have a private ceremony, and I apologize for saying a get-together, because it was a
No.
private ceremony, and the only way the park could guarantee private, no access to the public, was to close it at the end of Paula Road and to close it over at the horse entrance off of Kellogg.
Okay.
The
but
park people chose to close 2,100 acres.
It was
The
a legal reason.
The Talodini Nation did not request the park to close 2,100 acres.
Okay.
And so they're getting a little bit of a bad rap, if that's what you're thinking.
But that's what
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
what the word
More-
on the street was. That
More
they
more
just-
information has come to light since the weekend. The Talodini Nation is getting a bad rap that they requested to close the park. They did not.
And I'm glad I came and got that clarified.
Yeah, that was coming
Now-
next.
Now, my next comment is the corporation willing to guarantee rights in writing for this, if this park takes over and everything? We're dealing with a corporation.
Rachel volunteered text, and she's going to send a text to us that will be incorporated if it passes and if it transfers hands in the deed that will perpetually allow public access. She just stood up here and said and read specifically what was going to be there, and that's perfect. That's wonderful.
Okay. I'd rather see it in writing from the corporation. So, the Dini Corporation.
Is that word?
They're a corporation.
We're
They're
not-
not, I mean, look at them. They're a corporation, really.
We're not,
Yeah.
it's not a corporation.
Well, I was in Alaska when a lot of this shit came up.
Far from,
A lot of stuff was said, and a lot of shit didn't happen. So I'm just kind of a doubting person anymore.
I just want to, clarify what was going on out there. It was a salmon ceremony. It was to bless the river and the salmon so that we can have continued runs on that river and so on in perpetuity. And it's something that I would believe that the majority of people would support. And it's unfortunate to hear This is the first time I've heard this.
That's the first thing I heard was that
That there were thugs out there standing there blocking people from access when it was a peaceful, wonderful day at the center of our world,
That's right.
Nantucket.
Jennifer was
And
one of the thugs, and I don't
I just gotta say, that is absolutely
wrong.
wrong
Yeah.
and not okay that
Jen-
somebody in this community was saying that.
That's right. Jennifer was one of the thugs standing at the gate letting people in, and she's tough, right?
Yeah, I
what I heard, that I came here.
And that's part of the reason why the Tolowadini Nation is getting a bad rap over this.
Yep.
Because the right information never came through. The right information never came through until after the fact. And after the fact, more information came out. Tolowadini Nation didn't request to close the park. They requested the isolation so as not to be interfered with during the course of the ceremony. That's all. That's what they requested. That's my understanding of what they requested.
And I would just add, this isn't the only time this state park and this district does this. They do it all the time in Stone Lagoon. They do it down in Sumig. They do it on road closures of 101. You know, this isn't the only time or place that a state park or even a national park in this country shut down for a ceremonial reason. This isn't just something that just came to be. So I don't understand the fear.
There was a lack of communication. And rumor mongers.
But when it
Well, I
comes to
was gone.
ceremony, I can say as a Tolowadini person, when it comes to ceremony, it's not open to everybody to come and take pictures and have a good old time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as all of you guys go into your separate sanctuaries or whatever you may do. When it comes to religion, is it open to everybody? I don't know. Is it? No, I don't think so. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? And when it comes to that kind of thing,
And
you
Jay
know,
Tuck,
if we want notification of a ceremony, I don't quite understand. So what the fear?
And that's why I've said several times that the Tolowadini Nation got a bad rap over this deal. It was not the way it was intended. It was not the way it was said. The state park should be getting the bad rap because they didn't communicate correctly, right? I mean, you guys didn't request that they close 2,100 acres. You guys just requested to have a solidary event and not to be interrupted. It's perfect. It's fine. State Park chose to close the whole place. They didn't communicate properly with anybody in the county. They
Now-
didn't communicate with anybody in the county what was going on. And so then it becomes like, what's going on? And then you know how rumors go.
And see,
If the rumors were that they had thugs, here she is.
hey, Rob, I was just saying that, like Lori Barrington was a prime example. She had her trail rides scheduled, and the state park failed to notify her about it, and she'd booked these trail rides originally. And that's kind of where I think things start getting a little bit sideways.
Yeah, and Rob, I appreciate that. It is the state park's fault. Well, I won't say fault, but yes, the state parks would have been responsible for notifying everyone. So thank you, the communication. The same with Lori, right? And we actually, as the nation, this is the state's parks jobs, but nation staff personally reached out to Lori, personally reached out to Alexander, personally reached out to Ted. We went above and beyond to personally reach out to people, and that is the state parks job, not the nation's. And yeah, so I just wanted to come up here as the thug, you know, because there were actually very few people who physically wanted to go out there that day, and kind of the frustration is like there's a lot of people blowing this up that don't even care about that area, don't go to that area. They just want to make a public stink to make a public stink. The few people that I talked to were very respectful. They completely understood. They thanked me. I told them, if you would like to go to the beach, go down to Kellogg. You can easily get there. They were fine with it. Everybody was completely fine with it. You know, I had a nice long conversation with Linda Crockett. She was
completely happy with when it ended and understood everything. Helen showed up. So yeah, it's really frustrating to me because, you know, as staff, we deal with a lot of the brunt of this. A lot of, you know, people are not educated. It's like people need to behave better. And if you don't know about something, do not talk about it. You're spreading false information. You're making it hard on the community. Like this gentleman said, we need to all be getting along, working together. Like J-Tuck's trying to say, you know, part of the reason the tribe wants to acquire the properties is because we have a staff who could get funding that cannot be currently put towards these areas for conservation, for use. We care about the resources too. It's just really hard to sit here and be in the middle of this. And like, I think everybody has the same goals and the same ones, but there's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of people talking about things that they aren't educated on. There's a lot of people making up things that aren't true. It all gets spread. You all believe it. Like Rachel said, there are public acts that you can go look at bills. You can go find things for yourselves. Don't listen to somebody who probably doesn't know what they're talking about. And then also, I kind of want to go back to J-Tuck's thing because I have like a personal thing, and I'm sure the waterfowlers would too if they had more information. But there is private property right now that is under violation because they were not allowing public access where there should be public access. Those sloughs, Tillis Slough, they are navigable waters. There was barriers put up blocking you from your public access to duck hunt in there. Those private owners are probably going to try to maintain that somehow. So I would, you know, like J-Tuck kind of opened the door for me, and you know what? I'm going to make it known. There's private property under violation for public access. So you're sitting here mad at the tribe? Like, it makes no sense to me. You focus on the tribe as like the fall for all this, but there are other people, other players in the game doing the same thing, and none of you seem to care about that. And I'm like, I love this community, but I'm like pretty frustrated and pretty over it. Like, this is stressing staff out beyond belief. And we all have the same goals and the same wants. So why? Why all of this?
May I address you just quickly, just a little bit here? I'm not sure of the exact acreage that has gone out of access for duck hunters. Do you remember when we put together all that acreage, Jeff, that we've lost probably in the last 20 years? I mean, you know, we're talking several thousand acres of access for duck hunting. And so locally, we tend to get a little sensitive.
Well, and I understand that, and that's why I'm letting you know there's another situation right under your noses that I would recommend you pay attention to. I actively pay
Are you talking
attention.
about coming up from the ship and rowing up into those
Into
sloughs?
yes, into Tillis.
I've never been kicked
That's
off.
navigable waters. That's public access. That
I
is
rode up in there and hunted before, and nobody bothered me.
Well, there were tide gates there before. How'd you get in there? It was
No,
blocked
one
by
of
a
them
levee
was
and tide
open.
gates.
One of them must have been open when I got through. When
Well,
was the
you're
last-
not talking about the same area I'm talking about
Oh,
then.
okay. Well,
As I mentioned before, a couple times, and I'll say it again very plainly, Talawadini Nation got a bad rap over this weekend, totally. And the reason they got a bad rap is because nobody really knew exactly what was going on. State Park made a bad decision in what they were doing. They get the rap for it, but of course, it shows up as the TDN situation, and it's not. It's not. TDN got a bad rap over that. It's not their fault that the state park decided to close 2,100 acres. It's just not. And everybody knows that the yak that starts, just like John said, it goes from being a problem that's the size of a molehill and pretty soon becomes a mountain. And that's the kind of thing, more communication would fix that. That's all.
Monica Heiner again. I just want to state for the record that the nation requested that closure for one day on March 11th. That is more than enough time for the state to notify people who have permits that rely on that area. I horseback ride in that area. I hike in that area. I understand. Rachel and I, we hadn't heard any closure come out over public media or anything, so we took it upon ourselves to contact Lori, the Alexanders, the Tedsons, and they hadn't heard anything. This was Friday? No, it was later. Thursday. It was Thursday. Then when I finally saw something on Facebook, the parks had put out, and it was shared by Lori, that the closure was for 2 days, which was, I asked Rachel, we had never requested that. We requested 1 day, and it wasn't the full park closure. So that's also the parks throwing us under the bus.
Absolutely true. State Park closed it for 2 days. You requested 1 day. You didn't request to close the whole 2,100 acres. That was a state park decision. They're the ones that should get the bad rap, not Toloadini Nation. I mean, it's very simple. Now that all of the text, all of the information has actually come out and become public, that's a fact. Toloadini Nation, as you just said, requested 1 day. They closed it for 2 days, and they didn't tell anybody what they were doing. They didn't even post a sign that it was going to be closed until after 5 p.m. on Thursday.
Right.
There was no notification of any kind by State Park to anybody until they posted the sign out there where Jennifer was and over off of Kellogg after 5 p.m. on Thursday. Simple.
So do you know the state rules or policy that states how many days in advance they have to post something for a closure? I mean, if it's Thursday and it happened on
Yeah.
a Saturday, that's what, 48 hours or something? I don't know, I'm just asking.
That's what I was going to ask, is who is going to hold the park accountable for this? I mean, can you guys write a letter, get a hold of them, and ask them to be held accountable for this? Because somebody
Yeah,
needs
we
to.
can write a letter. I have asked Joey Borges to invite the lady that signed the notice that was on the wall to come to a Board of Supervisors meeting and explain all that. So we'll see if she shows up. I don't know whether he's going to invite her. I don't have a clue. But I asked Joey Borges to invite her.
Okay.
And so the public can come to that meeting and explain to her. I don't know whether she's in Eureka, Red Bluff, Redding, or Timbuktu. I don't know. But she's going to learn a little something about Donner County if she comes, because hopefully somebody will show up at the meeting and scold her slightly.
And it's all about public access.
Right. I have,
Correct?
Rob, I just have one thing I
It's
want to
about
ask.
the loss of public access, right? The issue with the park. You're just talking about, the issue with the park is because of loss of public access, correct?
The issue with the park is that they didn't communicate to anyone what they were in fact doing.
Because of loss of public access, correct?
Because of restricting
Okay, I just
access
want to
to
make that
21
clear.
acres.
It's not because Toloadini Nation was doing ceremony.
Now, I think I've said this 4 or 5 times, Jay Tuck, and
I just wanted to
I'm
make
not going to
sure-
say it again.
Well, I'm
Toloadini
gonna
Nation.
repeat myself
just a
as
second.
much as I want to,
Toloadini Nation got a
I can
really
do whatever
bad
I
rap.
want, just
That's
the
right.
same thing you can.
Toloadini Nation got a really bad rap because of lack of communication. It was absolutely, unquestionably not TDN's fault, or they had nothing to do with the
I
problem.
just want clarification, so
Yeah.
it's public access, so we can move on. Are we gonna get the rest of this agenda?
Jacob, he said that several
Anyone
times.
else?
I want to ask just one last thing. We have all of the nuts and bolts of the Toloadini people here. I want to know from you folks, if this does go to Toloadini Nation, it goes through the public trust, it goes to the BIA, do you know the authority of the BIA for, I don't care if it's 40 years from now, will they have the authority to shut it down once it goes there? That's my bottom line.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Well,
I don't know.
that's everything I've said tonight. It goes on that. And I would like an answer. If you guys can find out, that would relieve a lot of stress on my part. Right. I'm talking about their current laws. I mean, we can't go forever. Maybe for our next meeting, you could request if they would give an explanation of that, meaning the BIA, and send it to us so we would understand that better. Okay.
All right, we're getting out of hand here. Something else was, the $2,100 acres you're giving back to the Talawas. The Talawas is a conquered nation. And we gotta give the land back? If that's the case, we're gonna have to give California and Texas back to Spain.
Anyone else?
Stop trying to have me read something, please. You're bothering me.
Hi.
How are you? I've hunted and fished Talawa, Lake Earl, blah, 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 over 50 years with some natives, non-natives, anyway, including this year, duck hunting, on and on. Anyway, wonderful meeting. Everyone was very representative, honorable, and I liked the turnout, and it sounds like the trespassing deal or whatever, the no access to South Beach or Kellogg Beach was tabled, and that's perfect. Yeah, very much appreciate everybody's participation, and Keith Olson. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thanks for coming.
Okay. So I guess we're going to move on to any information on elk.
We had one spring elk hunt harvest so far. We have 4 more coming in June.
They're all coming in June, the other 4?
Yeah. It turned out great.
Any information on Lake Earl?
There's no update with the Board of Supervisors in their review.
Is Carl still here? Oh. Nothing else. Pheasant hunt's on.
Pheasant hunt is on? Okay.
They haven't set the exact date, but I heard them talking. They think maybe the same as last year, the weekend after the fair.
Weekend after the fair.
What's that, Jackie?
They know that the fair's not the normal weekend?
Yeah. Yeah, and then Aaron, we met, our group met with Jeff Harris, the school superintendent, as I told you, and we got a lot of the wildlife programs into our school system. And Aaron Berger is going to teach hunter safety as a pilot program at Crescent Elk the first week of June. And it's for 6th and 7th graders, and we're going to try and target that across the county. And then we have other things that we'll plan for the curriculum over the summer.
Okay. Okay. Homeless folks on state and federal lands.
Finally, the Fish and Game, or Fish and Wildlife Department wrote a new policy for us working with the homeless on their lands, and it took a couple of months to get them to send it out. Chad Dibble finally told them to send it out, and it talks about incorporating some of the funding that they have with our county efforts to clean up the fish and game lands. So I think it's a good thing.
That's good. Anybody else have anything to add? Looks like we've come to the end. of the agenda.
I would just like to add, I know that the natural resources staff and EPA department did a cleanup down there on Kellogg, if we're talking about homelessness and state and federal lands there. The day was that April 22nd, and took how many truckloads?
Which part of Kellogg was that? Well, Aaron Berger's gone out with Jeff and I, and we loaded his pickup with bags one day. Some of the remote stuff, not, you can't see it from the road. You gotta, I can't believe people haul it so far back, you know?
Spend more money to haul it out there than just take it to the transfer station.
Again, Monica Heiner with Toledo Nation. I don't know how many of you guys know that the Fish and Wildlife Department has been culling elk for several years now, and this year they're up to 50 that they're supposed to cull. And every year, the nation and Elk Valley's Natural Resource Department recover what's recoverable from those animals and distribute them to citizens. But there have been 2 years in the 2.5 years, 3 years that I've been there, 2 out of the 3 years that I've worked for the nation, the warden has repeatedly missed opportunities to go out early in the season, which leaves them culling pregnant females now that are ready to have, like the babies have spots, they're ready to be born, and they basically die only because they're shot in the gut, and then we have to bury them. And it's really tragic, and if you guys could write a letter or suggest to them to really try and cull these animals early in the season to avoid this really just heartbreaking. They don't have to gut the animals. They don't care. They don't see it. What?
Lack of hunters or what?
Lack of what? No, it's TAD. It's hoof rot disease.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Yep. All of them.
There's a Fish and Wildlife guy, calls animals.
And if they're not visible from the road, they're not getting shot that day.
Okay. You need to increase the number of people that do this?
No. Her point is that Fish and Wildlife, I think I'm right when is slow off doing the job.
Yeah.
And they come up and make a survey, right? And they know there are X number of elk with hoof rot.
We do surveys as well, and we tell them which herds have how many.
Then it takes them 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months to get Aaron Berger on board to call animals.
And we'll be on call sometimes 3-4 days a week.
It's not Aaron Berger, it's Carrington.
That's true. It's not his fault.
Right.
It's the guys in Reading or the guys over the hill when they tell him to go, but it takes them 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 months to make the decision to do it.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's the coordinating of his time and when he's willing to do it, and the fact that Carrington, Hilson schedules it.
And they
They need to start talking about it, like she's saying, like now.
6 months ahead.
And then schedule it out so it's earlier, not in the springtime.
Which
when
this
they're
happened 3 years ago, and then the nation was pretty firm, like, you guys need to plan this earlier because this is unacceptable and it's cruel. And it was good for a year. They got them all culled by what, April? End of March, April?
So your recommendation would be to have them cull in February and March, let's say? Never
Yeah.
past the 1st of April?
Yeah.
Or what would be the months? Okay, January and February, because we can write a letter to Fish and
Yeah.
Wildlife, absolutely, and say, hey, you guys have been culling animals later in the season when you've got calves, unborn calves in cows that,
Because those animals would be cold no matter what. If you're getting
right.
cold in May, you would have been cold in January.
sure.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
not necessarily,
They got hoof
because
rot.
there's like about 5 bulls over at our place that's going back and forth. And a month ago, none of them were limping. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't have been hit by a car or something, you know what I mean? But I don't think so. And Carrington, I did have a conversation with her last week, and she said the hoof problem is the worst that it's ever been. And so it's getting worse, not better. And going along with what she says, that's why the spring hunt is only for bulls and not the cows.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? A second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.